Ever catch yourself, like, chasing this idea of perfect,
Right.
but it always feels, I don't know, just out of reach?
Oh, totally. That elusive perfect.
Exactly. So today, we're really digging into this book, The Perfectionist's Guide to Losing Control. It's by Katherine Morgan Schafler.
I've heard of this one. It kind of flips the script on how we see perfectionism, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like, what if letting go a little actually helps you achieve more? And get this, Katherine Morgan Schafler. She used to be a therapist at Google. Talk about high achievers.
Wow. Okay, she's worked with the best of the best then. So what's the core idea here?
So the book dives right in, saying there isn't just one type of perfectionist. Schaffer actually outlines 5 distinct types.
5. Okay, now I'm even more curious. I feel like I can only picture one, maybe 2.
Right. You think color-coded calendars, right? That's actually the classic perfectionist, according to Schaffer. But she also talks about Parisian, messy, intense, and even procrastinator perfectionists.
Okay, hold on. Procrastinator perfectionist. That sounds almost contradictory.
I know.
Yeah.
It seems counterintuitive, but it makes sense when you think about it. A lot of times, procrastination stems from this fear of not meeting your own super high standards.
It's like avoiding the task altogether to avoid the possibility of failure.
Exactly. So have you noticed any of these different perfectionist styles in your own life?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the classic one, I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes. Like, if my to-do list isn't super organized, I feel totally scattered. But Scheffler breaks these types down so well. Can we talk about a few more?
Absolutely. So the Parisian perfectionist, right? It's that whole effortlessly chic thing. But underneath that seemingly perfect exterior, there's often this intense pressure to maintain that image.
It's giving duck on water,
Hmm.
calm above the surface, but paddling like crazy underneath.
Yes. And then you have the messy perfectionists. They crave order, have these really high standards, but actually struggling with like the whole execution part of it.
Oh, that's so relatable. Like, my ambitions are always exceeding my capacity to actually get things done.
Totally. And then there's the intense type. It's like that all or nothing energy. They're putting 110% into everything. Work, relationships, even hobbies.
It's like their inner fire is always turned up to the max. And, that can be both a blessing and a curse, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
So all of these different types, is there a common thread that connects them?
there is. And this is where it gets really interesting. Schaffer calls it the perfectionist paradox. Basically, the more we're clinging to this need for control, the more likely we are to actually feel out of control.
Okay, that does sound kind of paradoxical. How does that work?
Right. So it's like that saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. When we're so focused on every little detail being perfect, we miss the bigger picture. And that can lead to feeling overwhelmed, anxious, even paralyzed.
It's like that fear of making a mistake, of not being good enough, takes over. And
Yeah.
it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Exactly. Because that fear holds you back from actually taking risks, putting yourself out there, and really going after what you want.
So how do we break free from this paradox? What's Shuffler's advice?
Well, she talks about the power of self-compassion. And this really resonated with me. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you'd offer a friend, especially when things get tough.
Oh, for sure. I think as perfectionists, we tend to be our own worst critics.
Totally. It's that inner voice that's constantly pointing out flaws, right? But Schaeffler makes a really strong case for how self-compassion, not self-criticism, is actually what fuels growth and well-being.
It's like giving yourself permission to be human, to make mistakes, learn from them, and move forward. But knowing that and actually living it, that feels different.
It totally does. So to help with that, Schaeffler offers a bunch of practical strategies in the book.
Give me an example, because I feel like for perfectionists, having tangible steps is really helpful.
Absolutely. So one that really stood out to me was this idea of intentionally embracing imperfection, like on purpose.
Intentionally embracing imperfection. Okay, I need to hear more about this.
It's simple, but powerful. She suggests things like, maybe you leave a typo in an email, or you wear mismatched socks, just to kind of shake things up.
So it's about like breaking that cycle of needing everything to be just so. And I'm guessing it helps to kind of lessen the grip of that perfectionism little by little.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it helps you get more comfortable with being human, because
more-
nobody's perfect.
Right. We're all a work in progress. What else does she suggest?
Mindfulness plays a big role, too. And Schaeffler gives really specific exercises in the book. They're designed to, quiet that overthinking mind, which, let's be real, perfectionists are known for.
Oh my gosh, yes. Overthinking is like my default setting. So Quieting that down would be a game changer.
Right. And then there's this whole concept of reframing failure. Instead of seeing it as this like catastrophic thing, what if we saw it more as feedback?
Oh, I like that. It's not a full stop, but a stepping stone.
Yes. A chance to learn, adjust, and ultimately grow. Just like, when you're learning to walk, you're going to stumble a few times before you get the hang of it.
Makes sense. It's all about shifting that perspective, isn't it?
It really is. It's about moving from a place of fear and scarcity, that fear of making a mistake, not being good enough, to a place of like growth and abundance.
It's about embracing the journey, bumps and all.
Yes, this book really is full of those aha moments, and it makes you want to like underline everything.
It sounds like a must-read for, well, pretty much everyone, because who hasn't felt held back by their own expectations?
Exactly. And that's what I love about it. It gives you this new lens to view perfectionism. But here's a final thought, and this one's really got me thinking. Schafler argues that a lot of times perfectionism is actually masking a much deeper desire.
Okay, that's intriguing. So it's not just about being perfect on the surface. There's something more meaningful underneath it all.
Exactly. What if, instead of judging those tendencies, we got curious about them? Like, what if that striving for perfection is actually pointing you towards something you truly value? Maybe it's a deep desire for excellence, or a longing to make a real difference in the world, or even just, a yearning for connection.
That is a good question to sit with. Maybe our own perfectionism holds a clue to what truly matters most to us. That's something I'm definitely going to be thinking about.
Me too. And who knows, uncovering that why behind the perfectionism, that might be the key to unlocking an even more authentic, fulfilling path.
It's like turning that inner critic into a curious explorer. I love that.
Right. And sometimes that shift in perspective is all it takes.